But how do I clear that bar that's in front of me with all these wee things? Because I
just press on one of the other images, so just click away from the bar.
Clicking your image of me and that maybe cancel me out as well.
no, not helping.
It'll go away eventually, Barbara. Don't worry.
I
If you
just-
don't move your mouse, it'll go away eventually. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
After what Linda said, can we now go on to declarations of interest, which obviously are none. I take silence as assent. We also go on next to item 3, which is the chair's report, which I have none other than the fact that I presented the climate change report from the Audit and Scrutiny Committee at the Cabinet this morning, and it was fairly well received, and I, from what I'm led to believe, it went through okay.
Good.
Move on to item number 4, the Code of Corporate Governance. Morag Brown, I believe you're here to speak.
Thanks very much, Councillor Miller. Hi to everyone on the committee today. So this is my first online committee meeting, so nice to see everyone. This Code of Corporate Governance is an annual report that comes to the committee as part of its cyclical business of work each year. And it's a really important report to ensure the Council's arrangements are effectively dealing with the proper governance of the Council's business and the use of resources. Just a few kind of points regarding the report in front of you. The code is completed in line with national guidelines that are produced by SITFA and SOLACE, and it is based around 7 key principles with a number of sub-principles of governance as well. And the full code is listed in the annex to the report. Each year we're required to do 3 things. Firstly, a backward look at our code from last year. That work was undertaken in May and it was published on the website. So that showed our 1920 Code of Corporate Governance and the improvement actions that we would undertake. 4 of those improvement actions were completed and 1 has been carried forward as a result of delays relating to changing priorities around COVID-19. So those details are outlined in paragraph 9 of the report. So that's the backward look for 1920. We also do a forward look in identifying a new code. So we complete a self-evaluation against the principles and we identify a new code for 2021. So the new code evaluation has been completed and that is scored and listed, as I said, in Annex 1. So we've identified a number of improvement actions to further demonstrate our compliance with the code, and those are listed in paragraph 12 of the report. So just to add to that, as well as completing this code, the improvement actions will also form part of the annual accounts. It's completed within the annual governance statement and further to the committee considering and approving this code, those actions would also be listed in the annual governance statement. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
No.
Thanks very much, Mike. Can I open it out for anyone? Any questions?
No.
Barbara?
Fine.
No? Anyone?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Annette.
Councillor Ireland.
Sorry. Annette. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Well,
Thanks,
well,
Chair. It was, thanks a lot for that, Morag. It was on page 5. It was looking forward for the key actions for 2021. Had a couple of questions. The 2 first points, it's the annual fraud statement and the next steps for community choices. Do you have any dates when these, we might be working towards when these will be issued? I understand might not have any firm dates yet, but I wondered if there was any more information on those.
There's certainly no firm dates beyond those actions need to be completed by the end of the financial year, which would be the end of March 2021. But Councillor Ireland, I can certainly check with the people who are leading on those particular areas of work those are listed in the annex, and see if there's any more detailed timescales on that for you.
I would actually really appreciate that.
No problem.
Because both of them I'm really keen to see come forward. So thank you very much.
No problem, thanks.
Well, thanks. Anyone else have any questions?
No.
And you still got your hand. Oh, somebody else has got their hand up. Maybe.
Yes, it's Chair. Understand that the annual, the one of those actions, the fraud statement, is to be submitted to the Audit and Scrutiny Committee in September. That's my understanding.
Okay. That gives you a timescale in it.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
Okay, thanks, Maureen, for your
Okay.
first virtual meeting. Is relatively late.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Right, thanks very much. Can we now move on to item number 5 on page number 47, the annual Treasury Management Report, and we have Barbara to speak to that one. And Linda's still got her hand up.
No, not this Barbara, the other Barbara.
Sorry, Barbara Clark. Sorry, Barbara. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Okay, I've had problems with my mic earlier on today, so if you can't hear me, please let me know. As part of the Council's Treasury Management Strategy, the Chief Financial Officer is required to report on the activities of its Treasury Management operations, and this report is to achieve that requirement. This is a very high-level report showing the Council's debt position, along with graphs depicting the movement in investments over the last financial year. In Appendix 1 on page 49, it is noted that we have borrowed 27 million, taking advantage of low interest rates of around 2%. Our prudential indicators have assumed that we will borrow a total of 50 million to cover our capital expenditure over the next 3 years, so this is well within our permitted total. As part of the Council's strategy, the percentage of variable rate loans should be no more than 30% of the loan debt outstanding, and in the past year this peaked at 7.21%. This will creep up as PWLB is paid off or reduce as further PWLB loans are taken. With regard to the short-term investments, these have increased due to the additional borrowing and cash flows in both capital and revenue. Both expenditure and income can fluctuate substantially on a daily basis, depending on whether there has just been a pay run or a large creditor run, so the short-term balances are at the mercy of these cash flows. The prudential indicators in the report help confirm that capital investment plans and treasury management decisions are affordable, prudent and sustainable. In particular, the prudential indicators 3 and 4 shown on page 51 demonstrate that the Council is operating well within its limits. Lastly, the report requests that the committee recommend to the Council that the attached list of counterparties be approved. All investments are restricted to UK bodies with high credit ratings, with the maximum period of investment restricted to 6 months, with the exception of the Bank of Scotland, which is restricted to 364 days. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. I see Annette's hand up. No, it's down again. Anyone else? Any questions for Barbara? No. Well, we're asked to note this report and recommend it to the Council. Is everyone in agreement?
Fine,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much again, Barbara.
Yeah.
Can we now move on to item 6, the withdrawal from the European Union? We're very fortunate once again to have Anthony Jenkins here to speak to this. So can I give the floor to you, Anthony?
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Committee, for having me this afternoon. I don't really have too much to add to the report, which is essentially a summary, a broad summary of where the Council is in terms of its Brexit preparedness. We also kind of briefly addressed in the report the Audit Scotland's preparing for withdrawal from the European Union report, which came out in December of last year, which now feels like a lifetime ago. I would say that obviously Brexit still remains a very fluid situation, so a lot of our plans are, or our planning is general based on the worst case scenario, but I'm happy to take any questions you might have and answer them as best possible.
Thank you very much. I don't see any hands up, but Barbara, I know you had a
Yes,
question.
I've just got a couple of queries, and you may not be able to answer them, Anthony. One was anything about the Working Time Directive, which was one of the European Union things that we had to comply with. And I'm wondering also about the business of contracts, tendering contracts over a certain amount. Is that something that's still going to hold? Because I remember we were always wondering why there wasn't more business going to local people, and it was all to do with the amounts, because we had to put it out to European tenders. And that was a kind of couple of points I wondered if you had any clarification on, but perhaps not.
Yeah, okay, I'll do my best to answer them, but if there's any more detail you want, please let me know and I can go away and bring that back. But in relation to Working Time Directive and any kind of legislation that's derived from Europe, so driver regulations, etc., the current assumption is that the UK and Scottish Government will have a kind of continuity bill, so that as of 1st January 2021, when we fully exit the transition period, any existing laws would still be in application but enforceable through the United Kingdom. However, that's obviously not went through UK Scottish Parliament as yet, so potentially on 1st January you could have a position where things like Working Time Directive don't apply. Very much the direction of traffic, is that this will take place and it'll be quite a quick pass for both the UK and the Scottish Parliaments, or whoever has the kind of control over that area of law, and that would then give the respective legislature time to change laws that they're maybe not quite comfortable with. So that hopefully covers the Working Time Directive and other kind of general law. And then for tenders and contracts in general, on 1st, I'll just get the name of it, I've got it written down. So on 1st January 2021, we'll move from having to post tenders in the Official Journal of European Union to Find a Tender, which is a UK service. I'm not sure about thresholds, so I'm more than happy to take that away and find out. I'm also not sure if that means essentially the system will be much the same, but whether tenders would go out to European companies or if there's a threshold for UK. I'm more than happy to try and find out more if you need more detail on that though.
It was just that in the past we were concerned that there was a business and that we couldn't give to people locally because all this stuff had to go to Europe, and that we always felt was a bit of a stumbling block to businesses in our own area. And I just wondered if we're going to be having to continue with that, or are we going to be able to just put the tenders anywhere we want, whatever suits us.
Yeah, I'll certainly find out more about the tender process and report that back.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thanks very much. Annette.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Anthony, the report. It was just page 64. I noted that it was down that only 43% of East Renfrewshire's estimated number of EU nationals have applied for the EU settlement scheme. And I did note that we do have a dedicated EU exit page, but I wondered if there was any additional work being done to promote that dedicated page and to push people towards it and make them aware of it. So I just wanted if there was any more information on that at all. Because
yes,
it would be very good to get more of our EU nationals applying.
Halfway through already.
Yeah, with the figures of the 2,000 EU nationals, the figures I would say can be questionable because we were at 1,000 EU nationals with the same measure this time last year, and some councils are at 140% of their EU nationals having went through the EU settlement scheme. But I fully agree that we need to promote it better. We are linked in with the local Citizens Advice Bureau so that we can problem share. Prior to lockdown, we'd linked in with Voluntary Action East Renfrewshire to try and target community groups, and that's something as hopefully society opens up a bit more with COVID that we can target more. In the lead up to December, we'd be keen to promote more using our social media channels to the settlement scheme, both to our own staff and to the wider public. And I do have some actions arising from the Brexit working group to go and work with certain kind of religious or community groups. So particularly faith groups or anything.
That's great. That
Yeah.
answers that, because so there is work underway to help, and towards the end of the year that would, yes, because if it's going through the social media channels, that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Anthony. Any further questions? Charlie,
No,
Angela?
not at the moment.
No. Okay, right. Thanks very much, Anthony, once again.
Thank you.
As I say, I think we've got off lightly again. Oh, sorry, we've got Linda.
Oh.
Can I
Linda.
just, yes, sorry, I couldn't get my microphone to come off there. Can I just seek some clarification from the committee on what you want to do going forward? In August, the committee agreed to carry out a review about Brexit as a medium priority issue, but subject to further discussion, etc., on the commencement, having regard to the future outcome of the government discussions on the EU. And it was agreed in the first instance to get some feedback from the Brexit coordinator, but I'm not quite sure what you want to do going forward, if anything.
I'm sorry, I think Anthony's going to come back to Barbara with a couple of things. Is there anything else that anybody else wants clarification on at this point?
No, thank you.
Margaret?
I think it may be after the new year when officially we're out, and that's the end of the thing. If there's something has come up that we really need to think about between now and then, I'm sure Anthony will be able to let Linda know if it's something he thinks we should be talking about.
I think we'll have a better idea once the new year's passed. Margaret, you were wanting to say something there.
Yes, Chair. I was just going to suggest that maybe Anthony could give us another update in a couple of months' time. I think I'm right in saying, Anthony, that have we got until the 31st of October to try to get a scheme agreed, and then after that it was supposed to be a couple of months allowed for ratification?
Yes, that's
so we should know by the end of October if we've got any sort of deal, and once we know what we're facing, the committee could then reconsider how they want to address it. Would that do?
Thanks.
That fine with you, Linda?
Well, if the committee is happy to proceed on that basis, that's absolutely fine. We can record that.
That would be dependent on us having a view by the end of October on what way we were going, a bit of clarity, but it could go to the end of October as I understand it. I think that's the deadline, but maybe after that we can think about having another look at it.
I think if the European Union deal has been stuck with because of soft cheese or something like that.
Stilton.
Sorry? Well, Stilton. Any further questions or comments?
No.
Okay, I'll take that as sent, and once again, and thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Can we move now on to item number 7, of which we don't have any detail, but it's the local external audit report, and Pauline Gillen, Morgan Fraser are obviously here to explain why we don't have any paperwork. Pauline, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. We had expected to be able to bring you our interim management report today to report on our assessment of the Council's systems of control. Unfortunately, due to the current restrictions, we are some weeks behind where we would have liked to have been at this point. The nature of auditing remotely just means that everything is taking much longer than we had planned. You'll see a similar experience in the later papers from internal audit, where they've also experienced some delays in their work programme. Well, that's unfortunate. We are making progress, however. We have almost concluded our interim controls work, which feeds into our financial statements audit. We have started the audit of the financial statements, so that is underway, albeit later than anticipated. The committee will be aware that for this year, the statutory sign-off deadlines for local government accounts has been extended. So previously it would have been the 30th of September. It's now been pushed back to the 30th of November for all local authorities. So we do plan to use that flexibility in timelines to enable us to make sure that the audit has been completed properly to the high standards that you'd expect it to be done and in line with all the relevant accounting and auditing standards. So going forward, we'll be keeping in close touch with finance officers. We are meeting at the end of August, where we'll have a progress meeting just to update them on how things are going, and hopefully at that point we'll have a clearer idea of what's a more realistic timescale for signing off the accounts. So I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
Thank you very much. I don't think any of us are any surprised that things have been delayed by what has gone on for the last couple of months. Any questions?
No problem.
No.
No, nothing at all.
Nothing.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies. Now move on to item number 8, the National External Audit Report for the Early Learning and Childcare Follow-up. This is one I was actually looking forward to myself. Janice, are you here to speak on that? Janice?
Actually here, Chair, to just answer any questions, but I'm happy to do an introduction if that would make it easier for the committee.
Would the committee have any questions, or would you like a wee overview of it first?
No, I'm happy at the moment.
Okay, we'll go for questions, Janice. Any questions?
No.
Nothing at all.
No.
I thought the rest of them go off easy, Janice, but you're getting off easier still.
I think the fact that we're delivering 1140 makes it a good news story for East Renfrewshire at the moment.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Okay, right. Thanks very much once again.
Thank you.
Can we now move on to the item number 9, Internal Audit Plan, the implementation progress April to June. And I hope our microphone's working this time. Michelle?
Oh, can you hear me?
Barely.
Oh, I'll try and speak up. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
very much so.
I'm having terrible problems with this sound. So this report has 2 main parts to it. Firstly, an upgrade on the progress report for Q1. And secondly, the proposals to revise the plan for 2021 due to COVID. So in terms of progress, no audit reports relating to planned 2021 audit work have been issued since 1st of April. So this report contains in Appendix 3 the findings and responses for some of the reports relating to 1920, which were either issued after the year end or where the response was received after the year end. The only one I would draw your attention to is Procurement Red Flags report, and that was comparing council practice to one of the Audit Scotland reports on best practice. There were 3 recommendations not accepted, all of which were low risk. And one of the main reasons for this is due to the size of the council, which sometimes makes it more difficult for full segregation of duties. So, for example, if there's a technical contract and 2 officers are involved in preparing the tender specification, there might not be a separate 2 officers with the required technical knowledge to evaluate it, independently. As has been said already, remote auditing has been quite restricted in the period March to June, and although the audit team have not been doing their usual work, I would like to assure the committee that they have all been assisting other services, for example, in shielding calls at the start of lockdown, and assisting with online education appeals, and also processing and assessment of the business grants given out due to COVID. In terms of performance indicators, Appendix 4, largely not applicable in Q1 as no reports were issued. In terms of use of contingency time, there was 3 new items dealt with in the quarter using contingency. None of these involved actual loss to the council, and they were mainly just assisting other departments. 2 of them related to business grants. The second part of the report addresses the need to revise the annual plan for 2021. And unfortunately, the committee had just approved the plan in March, just before lockdown was imposed. When I originally prepared the plan, it was based on assumptions that I would fill the vacant post, which obviously I haven't been able to do. And I've also lost other days just because we haven't been able to carry out some of the audit work. So I've had to reassess how many days would be available and then try and work out what I'll delete from the plan. So that's what you've got in Appendix 1 with the new approved plan for 2021. Even with this, I still think I'm going to be short of days. So I'll I'll review this throughout the year and bring further updates to the committee as required. Subject to any questions, I would ask you to note the internal audit progress report for the first quarter. Let me know if you need any reports circulated to members, and finally to approve the amended annual audit plan for 2021.
Thanks very much, Michelle. Barbara, you got a question there?
Well, it was just a comment really, because I did mention to Michelle at the pre-meeting about this business of the work that people who are making up the tenders, etc., are also the ones who are looking into the whole business. And I think because we don't have enough people who are separate, it means that the same people are doing like the opposite jobs. And at the meeting, Michelle was able to assure me that in a small council it's acceptable, and that the hierarchy in the council are prepared to accept that whole position. So, as I say, it was something that I did mention. But if the powers that be are happy to accept that, then so am I.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Anyone else got any questions? Yep.
Oh, thank you, Chair. It was just a very quick one, Michelle. Thank you very much for the reports you've got before us. And I totally understand that post is still vacant because of everything with COVID-19 and the lockdown. I just wondered, is the recruitment process currently underway, or is that something that will happen at some future date?
I decided not to recruit only because there wasn't enough audit work for the current staff to do, which is why there was no point in recruiting somebody else.
Right, okay, no, it was just thank you. It was mentioned a couple of times, so thank you very much.
Okay, any further questions? Annette, your hand's still up. Okay, no bother. Right, thank you very much, Michelle, but I take it you're not rushing away, because we move on to item 10, which is Public Sector Internal Audit Standards, the PSIAS, and there's Michelle to speak to this one as well.
Okay, so there's a requirement to carry out periodic self-assessments of compliance with PSIAS, with at least one external assessment every 5 years. And members will be aware that you had an external assessment presented to the committee in June 18. We carried out a self-assessment in 2019, and this is just a further self-assessment, just July 2020. There's been very, very little change from last year. We've implemented a few minor changes from last year, but generally the levels of compliance in percentage terms are the same as last year. Our level of compliance with PSIAS is 95% fully compliant, with a further 4% partially compliant. Compliance with PSIAS is mandatory in public sector, and any areas of non-conformance must be reported to the Audit and Scrutiny Committee. So as part of that, you've got in the appendix our QAIP Quality Assurance and Improvement Programme. It's only got 2 items on it this year. We'd implemented everything from last year, and I would also add that the 2 that are on this year have now been implemented. And obviously you'll be aware that in future years it'll be harder and harder to show improvement because we're already sitting at quite a high percentage compliance. Again, subject to any questions, I would just ask the committee to note the outcome of the revised self-assessment.
Who does that self-assessment get passed on to? Where does it go from here?
It doesn't go anywhere, Councillor Grant.
Right.
We just report it to Audit Committee. Somebody in my team does the self-assessment and I discuss it with them. And as I say, every 5 years we get an external assessment. So you recall we had the Chief Auditor from one of the Dumbartonshire councils appearing 2 years ago to committee. So in 3 years' time we'll have another external assessment.
Right. Okay, thank you. Not hearing you, Stuart. If you're talking, can't hear you.
Sorry, sorry, Michelle. Thank you very much for that report. And I think at 97% compliance rate, it would be very, very hard to to improve much more. However, any further questions? No, I take that as a assent then, and we can note the report.
Right.
Once again, move on to item number 11, the internal audit annual report. And once again, it's Michelle. Thank you.
Okay. So again, in terms of audit activity during 1920, it was reasonably successful. 84% of planned audits were carried out and completed, despite obviously the problems in the last few weeks of the year. 5 audits were actually in progress and almost complete when lockdown happened. So we've had to defer these due to COVID, as approved by committee in June 20. 33 reports were issued relating to planned 1920 work, and satisfactory responses have now been received for all of them except debtors, and the only reason we don't have a response for that is the due date hasn't yet passed. There's one further audit from 1920 where the work is complete, the report's been prepared, and we're just waiting on it being finalised with management before it will be issued, hopefully before the next audit committee. The 1920 plan, we'd estimated 720 direct audit days, but actually delivered only 603 for various reasons. But despite the fewer number of direct audit days that we had, we still managed to do most of the audits. Some of the savings that we made in time were that we had less sickness absence than I had budgeted for. We used slightly less contingency, and we spent slightly less on other things like PRD and seminars. Throughout the year, I've given audit committee details of the high and medium risk recommendations and those that weren't accepted by management. And in total, there was 4 reports during the year, a total of 6 recommendations which were not fully accepted. And you should have details of them throughout the year in the progress reports. They were all graded, mostly graded as low. I think there was one medium one. In terms of contingency, again, you've had updates of these throughout the year. There was in total 3 items investigated under using general contingency, and none of them related to a physical loss to the council. There was 9 investigated under kind of fraud contingency, and within that there was 3 where there was loss or theft of goods owned by the council. They were all fairly low value compared to previous years, and as I say, I think one was about £1,000 where some additional special needs bikes were stolen from one of the establishments. There was a £20 cash shortage, and there was 2 camera SD cards went missing in one of the establishments. Police were involved in 2 of these cases. In terms of PSIS, you've just had the paper, and as I say, it's a requirement to mention this in the annual report, which I've now done. The performance indicators, there's 4 that we haven't met for 1920, and the reasons for this are given in the report, but it's primarily due to just delays in getting responses from departments and also the reduction in staffing levels that's been spoken about before. One of the main purposes of the annual report is to give councillors an assurance statement, and you've got the assurance statement, but I would just again remind members that the prime responsibility rests with management to put in place appropriate and sound systems of internal control. My conclusion this year is that reasonable assurance can be placed on the adequacy and effectiveness of the Council's framework of governance, risk management and internal control for 1920. I don't really have anything else to say other than if you've got any questions, I would ask that you note the contents of the annual report, approve the annual assurance statement, and then later submit it to the Council.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Anyone with any questions? Don't see any hands up.
No.
Can we approve this report?
Approve.
Linda?
Yeah.
It's just to remind the committee that following this meeting, a report in the committee's name will be prepared for the forthcoming meeting of the council, providing the statement on the adequacy and effectiveness of the governance, risk management, internal control systems operating within the council for 2019-20. So that's as in keeping with all previous years. I will prepare that report in the committee's name.
Everyone quite happy with that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay, once again, silence as assent. Okay, we go into the last one. And it's the committee specialisation arrangements, which Linda is going to speak to that one.
So, okay, the purpose of this report is just simply to propose changes to the committee specialisation arrangements for dealing with internal, external audit reports and inspection reports. So following the Provost resignation from the committee and Councillor Convery's appointment to it, it's recommended that she lead with Councillor Ireland on issues relating to the Chief Executive's office and with Councillor Gilbert on health and social care partnership related matters. So that's her simply stepping into the shoes that Provost Fletcher vacated when he resigned from the committee.
Right, okay.
Right, thank you very much. I take it you're quite happy with that, Angela?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that at all. Thank you.